want you to look at these two shapes and tell me which one you think is Booba and which one you think is Kiki. I'll give you some time to think. Okay, what I'm gonna guess is that most of you thought this one was Kiki and this one was Booba. Did I guess right? People have this tendency to assume the personality of even inanimate objects. While this is a famous linguist experiment, we can apply this idea of certain shapes having certain meaning to design. Specifically, to character design, which uses the fundamentals of shape in order to give the audience a sense of characters' personalities before they even speak. Now, what is shape language? Shape language is the idea that certain shapes give us, the audience, a certain mood, meaning, or personality. Now, why is this important to character design? You see, the design of a character is supposed to communicate a character's purpose to the audience. We can see this in play when looking at animated movies. A good example of this is the movie Inside Out. Here we can see how simple shapes can go a long way. When simplified, we not only get a sense of a character's personality, but we can also identify each of them right away with no extra details. Having a clear silhouette as well as strong shape language can help us design characters that are easy to read as well as having a unique design. Now, in order to use shape language, we must first understand the fundamentals of shape. Let's look at the circle. Circles are typically used for more soft, carefree, and/or non-harmful characters. We mostly see circles used for main characters of kid films such as Coco and Encanto. See how Miguel and Mirabel both have very round features, representing the more fluid, caregiving nature. Circles can also show innocence. We can see this with Luca and Kirby, whose design really drives you the circle-like appearance. These examples show us how circles can help us build a main character for a story. Simple, innocent characters work great for the hero's journey model of storytelling, since it's about a naive character being drawn into a totally new environment and having to change or adapt to said environment. Our next stop is squares. Squares are typically used for more stoic, bulky, and/or stubborn characters. We can see this in use in our previous example of Inside Out. See how anger is just one big square? This is to make the audience know that his personality will be super stubborn from the start. We can also see this in characters like Dark Chocolate Cookie from the Cookie Run franchise. While not being fully a square, we can see how many tiny squares mixed with other shapes can still convey his stubborn and stoic personality. Compared to his younger design, we can see how the added squares serve to display the change in his personality since then. I would also like to add that squares can be used for smart characters, such as Donatello from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Squares also fit him since he is the most stubborn of the brothers and always has a set ways of doing things. This leads us on to our last shape, triangles. Now, triangles can be separated into two shapes, upward pointing triangles and downward pointing triangles. Upward pointing triangles give us a sense of hope and positivity, just like how castles have their points reaching towards the sky. Meanwhile, downward pointing triangles can give us a dangerous and evil feeling. Triangles are very dynamic shapes and can also be used on sly, sneaky characters. Although we typically see triangles being used in villainous characters such as Maleficent from Sleeping Beauty and Miguel O'Hara from the Across the Spider-Verse. Some examples of triangle characters that don't fit the villain archetypes are Gojo Satoru from Jujutsu Kaisen and Misumi Ikagura from the A3 franchise. Gojo's triangle-like appearance serves to show both his power but also hope, as he is one of the teacher characters for the students of the show, and is one of the stronger characters, so he is usually the one protecting others. Meanwhile, Misumi's triangles show his positivity. He loves triangles because his grandpa also loved triangles, and he wants to spread his positivity with his unit mates. Another thing I would like to note, Gojo's and Misumi's design both have their triangles pointing upward. Meanwhile, the villains, like Miguel and Maleficent, have theirs pointing downwards. This just goes to show how triangles facing different ways can give us a different impression on what the character is supposed to represent. Although these are the fundamentals, they can always be broken to subvert the audience expectations. Examples of these are Lotso Bear from Toy Story, who's a random character that we perceive as an innocent caretaker of toys until it's revealed later that he's actually the bad guy. And Mr. Wolf from The Bad Guys, who's a triangle character that ends up becoming a good guy by the end of the movie. Having shape language like this is very important if you want to tell a story that is both interesting and unique. If all you have are characters that just had the same body type, face structures, and pose, it wouldn't be able to tell a story just on visuals alone. It is very important to learn shape language if you want to design characters that will pop out to the viewers. Now I want to transition into application. I went ahead to redesign some characters from the Cookie Run franchise. Now, while not having bad character design, it is sometimes limited because each cookie uses the same base of a gingerbread man. I wanted to translate these designs into a mere human-like character. Now, my style isn't that simple, as making simple is harder than doing complex, so I imagine these designs being used in like a show more for teens than for children. To start off our lineup is Poison Mushroom Cookie. He's one of the younger characters in the game who's part of the bad guys, but in reality he's not much of a threat to the protagonist of the game. That's why I used more random shapes for a design. His face, hat, and overall pose is a circle. Only in the clothes did I add straight and angled lines to show the audience that he's still one of the evil characters. Next character is Red Velvet Cookie, one of my personal favorites. In the story, he is shown to be this very intimidating guy, especially since he's part cake hound. Many of the cookies that meet him tend to fear him at first sight, although he does have a softer side towards his cake hound pets. To give off this scary personality, I decided to go with more triangles. His hair, ears, and even stance all go into points, all to show that he's probably someone you shouldn't mess with. Last character is Dark Chocolate Cookie. As I said before, he is a very stoic and stubborn character, a great contrast to his younger self, who is a more lively and prince-like character. Although, I guess being exiled by your own father can do a number on you. Anyways, I decided to go with more square-like and bulky design with him. He is both intimidating and someone you should never mess with. His face and torsos are made out of square, and the added cake gives him the full, wide, and dark stance that will make other people fear him at first sight. In the end, this was a fun challenge to do, and it just goes to show how much shapes can affect your character. I want to encourage the audience to try out this challenge and get one of your favorite characters, or even your own original characters, and redesign them using the fundamentals of shape language. To conclude, shapes are a very fundamental aspect to character design, which can give your character a more unique and dynamic design. It can also help the audience quickly understand who the character is at a glance, and while the fundamentals are important, breaking them once in a while is also good in order to make a more fleshed out and interesting story. I hope this gives you an idea and helps you learn a little bit more about shape language and how that can be applied to your own characters.